Welcome back to Pod 129. I am Hunter Waldrop, and that is Jake Stinchcomb live from the Peach State. Jake, how are we doing today in Athens, Georgia, brother?
Ready to roll, man. We're so close. Can't wait to get the show going and then get Saturday, man.
Yeah, dude. We're
So
just
close.
a few short days away from the first college football full slate Saturday of the year. We're filming this on Wednesday night, so we're just less than 24 hours away from some pretty big time names coming on the stage tomorrow night. The first notable one being the Colorado Buffaloes, Dakota State,
Time.
and then there's a bunch of top ranked teams playing some smaller schools tonight or Thursday night and Friday night. I'm excited, man. It's finally that time of year, and I
Finally.
could not be more excited. So today, we're going to run through the college football playoff. We're going to talk week one football, and that's about it. We're going to show you the brackets, who we got winning it all. We're going to talk a little bit of Heisman, few best bets for Saturday, and some future bets we have placed along the way. So, Jake, let's get this thing started with the 1st and 10.
Let's do it. But first, do I have a little bit of advertising to do?
We can do a little bit of advertising.
Let's do a little bit of advertising.
We can do a little bit of advertising, sir.
All right. As always, like, comment, subscribe on our YouTube channel. You can always listen to our shows on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Be sure to go give us a follow on X and Instagram and let us know your thoughts on the show. Now we're ready for some 1st and 10.
All right, let's do some 1st and 10, brother.
All right. In honor of the week one preview going on, we're going through our brackets. New season. I have all of the past 14 years since 2010 national champions. Can you give them to me by year?
I think I can try my best. So,
all right.
2010, Auburn Tigers.
Yep.
2011, Alabama.
Yep.
2012, Alabama.
Yep.
2013, Florida State.
That's right.
2014, Ohio State.
Yeah.
2015, Alabama.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, look at this guy.
2016. Oh goodness. All right, skip it. 2017, Alabama.
Yeah.
2016, Clemson.
Yeah.
2018. Who was in it? 2019, LSU.
Yeah.
2020, Alabama. 2021, Georgia. 2022, Georgia. 2023, Michigan. So I'm missing 2018. Goodness gracious. Bama was in it. Oklahoma was in it. Clemson.
It is Clemson.
With
that's GOAT talk right there, man. I love it.
Trevor Lawrence.
Awesome. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
You got
I
it.
totally forgot because that game, no offense to the Gumps out there, that's probably the biggest ass whooping that you've received in a long time in a meaningful game.
Yeah.
Because you know what's crazy about that today, and some downtime, of course, definitely not during class hours or anything. I might not have been watching the 2018 Orange Bowl between Alabama and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Tua was running it up in that, and I don't know. I can't believe that of all years was the last one I got. But
what made you watch that one?
It was just in my recommended, man.
It
was in my recommended, and I didn't realize how much firepower Oklahoma had on that roster with Kyler and CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, they
little Kendi Brooks action. But all right, man, this is the time and this is the moment that I know a lot of people. They've been, humming around with the conference previews.
Sun Belt Conference preview.
Man, if you want a minute on the Sun Belt, I can give it to you. But we are not here for that today. We had some big previews on the SEC, the ACC, lower numbers on the Big 12, solid numbers so far. Big 10 just came out today as we are recording this, but it's really time to talk some college football playoff. First year of the 12 team. And before we hop right into it, I'll just go ahead and put yours up on the screen so that people kind of, for those watching on YouTube, you can see the screen. If not, if you're listening, just pay close pay close attention to detail so you can try your best to understand this. So the way that the playoff format is set up with the 12 teams now, your Power 4 champion, conference champions. So Big 10, SEC, Big 12, ACC. Those 4 teams who win their conference championships are automatic locks for the first four seeds, and they all get bye games. And then you have seeds 5, 6, 7, and 8 who are all hosting home playoff games, and they are facing at that point the 9 seed, 10 seed, and 11 seed, and then the 12 seed as well will go on the road and to the home field of the 5 seed, and they are group of 5 only. That is the highest ranked group of 5 teams. So, for example, you have American Conference winner USF, Mountain West Conference winner Boise State, and Sun Belt Conference winner Texas State. Whoever is ranked highest out of those 3 teams per se, just to give an example, you also have like the Conference USA, but whoever's ranked the highest group of 5 champion will be the 12 seed and will go on the road to face the 5 seed. So that's just probably the best way. I wanted to give it a little rundown as we see Jake's play up on the screen, and I will let him take it away.
Yeah. So you can see there my number 1 seed, the Big 10 champ I have is Ohio State, and Georgia's my SEC champ. I have both of these teams going 11-1 in the regular season, but I think by that time of the year, Georgia's going to struggle a little bit more with their schedule, and they'll be number 2 under Ohio State. And then I have Miami coming out of the ACC and Oklahoma State taking the Big 12. We'll go to the top left there. So I have, I'll go to number 6 now, or number 5. So I have, I put it kind of in conference runner-ups. So I have Oregon, they're the Big 10 runner-up. There will be number 5 seed. And then Alabama, the SEC runner-ups at number 6. And then we go up top to number 7. I have Notre Dame sneaking in there at 11-1. And then I go back to number 8 with another conference runner-up in the Utes at number 8. And then number 9, I have Penn State at 11-1. I think their only loss is going to be to Ohio State. Michigan's not on the schedule this year. And then number 10, I'm probably going to get heat for these next 2 picks. I got the Aggies at number 10. I think it all starts Saturday night. If we can take care of Notre Dame on Saturday night, Texas A&M has everything they want right in front of them. And then number 11, I have NC State. I think they're going to be able, I changed my mind. I originally had them 10-2. I think they beat Tennessee in that early game. They're going to go 11-1. And because of tiebreakers, missed the ACC championship game, which will be Miami and Clemson. Clemson is a runner-up, but the reason I don't have them there is because they will be a 2-loss team. And NC State, I have them as the 11, just because of record-wise. And then 12, you can see down there, it says just a G because I didn't give Hunter a G5 pick team in time, but I'm going with Liberty coming out of Conference USA, I believe. And that's what I got in my first round. Okay. All right. And then we go to the first round game. So I'll start at the top left with the 8 and 9 Utah and Penn State. I think Penn State goes on the road there and gets a big win to get the rematch between Penn State and Ohio State. And I thought about doing it. I thought about letting Drew Aller get his get back on Ohio State, but it's just not this year, man. Ohio State's too good. Go to the bottom, the 5-12. There's not much to say. It does not matter who comes and plays in Eugene, Oregon. Oregon's going to win that one. And they will be playing Oklahoma State in the second round. Excuse me. And then I have Notre Dame and A&M, a rematch, a week 1 rematch. And I have Notre Dame getting them back. They will be at home to go play the Dogs. And then I have Bama and NC State matching up. And then I have the Tide taking that one with ease, going on to play the Ducks, the Hurricanes. Are they the Hurricanes or the Ducks? Why am I having a brain fart? Anyways, go to the second round. Notre Dame, Georgia, I got the Dogs. Miami and Bama, I have Bama winning that one. And then Oklahoma State, Oregon, I think Oregon wins with ease there. Penn State and Ohio State, the rematch, like I said a minute ago, that should be easy for Ohio State once again. Final 4, these are the best 4 teams in the country, in my opinion. And I have, I'll wait because we don't have it up on the screen yet. So.
I like it, Stench. I like it.
Am I dumb?
That's a solid.
Who is Miami's mascot?
They're Hurricanes. I don't know why you're having a brain.
I don't know why I said Ducks. My bad.
Well, probably because Oregon's right next to them, and they're both dark green. Don't worry about it.
Could be it. My bad, guys. My bad.
All right, so now it's time for my playoff, and I'll take it away from here. So in mine, we will start with the conference champions that I have with the first round buys. Number 1 overall seed, I got the Ohio State Buckeyes. I have them going 11-1, and then winning the Big Ten championship against Oregon and getting the 1 overall seed. With the second seed, I got SEC champion Ole Miss taking down Alabama in the SEC championship with finishing 12-1. 3 seed, I've got ACC champion Clemson losing this week to Georgia. Close, little preview for later, and finishing the year 12-1 as the ACC champion. And then to round things up, I have Utah as a 2-loss team, finishing the year, what would that be, 11-2, stealing the only playoff bid the Big 12 will have, in my opinion. I think they're only going to get one team in because everybody's going to have multiple losses. And let me dive into the rest of these, and you'll understand why. I just don't think the Big 12 holds as much weight as SEC and Big 10. So we'll start in the top left. Oh, no, I guess we'll just go in order. Bottom left side of your screen, we got 5-seeded Oregon. They are the Big 10 runner-up. I have them going 12-0 in the season, and then a loss in the Big 10 championship game to Ohio State. And in the bottom right corner, we have the 6-seeded Alabama Crimson Tide. I have them going 11-1 with a loss to Ole Miss in the SEC championship game, making them 11-2 as the SEC runner-up. Top right corner, I've got the 7th-seeded Georgia Bulldogs. I think they do lose 2 games this year, but I think everybody knows that Georgia still is one of the most talented teams. They got the best head coach in college football. And I put them at 7 because if your 2 losses are to the SEC champion and the SEC runner-up, both on the road, you still deserve to be hosting a home playoff game. In the 8th seed, I got Michigan. I have them going 10-2 this year. I have them losing on the road at Ohio State and at home against Oregon. Kind of the same concept. If your 2 losses are to the Big Ten champion and the Big Ten runner-up, then you deserve to still host a home playoff game, in my opinion. Then these next 2 picks, this is where it just gets bold, but I do not care. I truly believe this. I'm with Stinchcomb on this one. I got A&M right there, sitting below Michigan at the 9 seed. Like he said, I think they start taking care of business on Saturday. They go 10-2 this year and will be the 9 seed going on the road to Ann Arbor. At the 10 seed, I have the USC Trojans. If you all listen to the Big Ten preview that came out on Wednesday, you will understand where I'm coming from on this. Very high on Miller Moss. I think the defense makes enough adjustments for the offense to outscore opposing defenses in the Big Ten, and I have them traveling on the road to Athens to take on Georgia. And then at the 11 seed, I have Notre Dame sneaking in. I just do not see a world where even if they lose 2 games, that they don't get in. They still play 8 Power 4 teams. I have them traveling on the road to Bryant-Denny to take on Alabama. And then at the 12 seed, my G5 team. Shout out Sunbelt Conference. Texas State has the highest, or the lowest odds, I should say, rather, to make the CFP out of the Sunbelt. I had to represent my conference. Jordan McLeod and the Texas State Bobcats will be a team to watch out for this year. I have them traveling to Eugene and playing Oregon as the 12 seed. Moving on, we'll start in the top right corner. I got 8-seeded Michigan hosting 9-seeded A&M. I've got 8-seeded Michigan moving on into the second round to play Ohio State. Yes, we get a rematch of the best rivalry in all of college football, arguably, in the college football playoff, and I have Ohio State beating Michigan not once this year, but twice to move on to the semifinals. We come down here to the bottom left. I got Oregon taking care of business against Texas State, no problem. They then move on to the second round to take on the Utah Utes, who is a team that they've had trouble with in recent years when they've played in the Pac-12. Not this year. Dan Lanning gets the job done in the second round, and the Ducks move on to the Final Four, where I have Ohio State and Oregon playing for a third time this year, once in the regular season, once in the Big Ten title, and once in the CFP semifinals. I'll take you to the top right corner for those watching on YouTube. I have USC traveling to Georgia. Kirby Smart is one of the best coach, or he is the best coach in college football, one of the best postseason coaches in all of football, in my opinion. Lincoln Riley can't win a playoff game if his life depended on it. Georgia takes care of the Trojans. Then, bottom right corner, we got 6-seeded Alabama taking on 11-seeded Notre Dame. I think Bryant Denny is the factor in this game. I think DeBoer's too much for Marcus Freeman. I got Alabama moving on to the second round. Now, in the second round on the right side of my bracket, we got Georgia playing Ole Miss. All these second-round games and third-round games being at neutral sites. Georgia gets their lick back on Ole Miss, and they move on to the semifinals. In the bottom right corner, we got a 2016 and 2018 and 2015 national championship rematch, two prominent programs of my lifetime, especially as of recently. Alabama taking on Clemson, and I think the tide is too much for Dabo and the boys. So now it's time to hop into who we got playing in our national championship games. Jake, let me bring you back on. I'll let you kick it off. I'll get a snug of water.
Before we go back, can you go back to your slide real quick, the last slide you were on? These matchups, out of all the like hypothetical brackets I've seen, these matchups are awesome because this would be so you have bottom right, Bama and Clemson, the teams that just dominated the 2010s. Oregon and Utah, a little Pac-12 after dark action, bringing back the Pac-12 matchup. And then you go Michigan, Ohio State, like you said, the best rivalry in football, college football, arguably. And then would that be Georgia and Ole Miss third time playing each other?
Second. I have Ole Miss, Bama, the SEC title.
That's right. But still, all four of those matchups would be freaking sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I just had to note that. That's good.
No, I appreciate it. So I'll kind of kick us off here. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, Ohio State, Georgia, I think they're the best two teams coming into the season in the country, and I think they're going to be the best two teams in the country at the end of it. We'll see how it all plays out, like we talked about in the Big Ten preview came out today. It's going to be very hard for these two teams to get there, regardless of how much talent they have. The key is to stay healthy, in my opinion, but I think these are the best two teams in football, without a doubt.
Yeah, I find it funny that you and I both had the same Final Four based off like the matchups too, like the same exact matchups in the semifinals. I found that ironic because there's so many different ways that you could put this bracket together. So I found that interesting. We both have Ohio State beating Oregon, and we both have Georgia beating Alabama. I got Georgia getting back both of their wins, or both their losses, I should say, rather, that I have them losing in the regular season, and they're going to be right there back in the mix.
Yep.
We'll move on. Who do we have winning the national championship? Oh, it's
my God.
It's different. Jake, I'll let you go first, and then I'll
I think with both of these teams on a neutral site, it's a coin flip. Obviously, I'm a Georgia fan, so I'm going to take Georgia in this. But I do think the talent on both rosters, I guess you could argue that they're both about the same. But as far as coaching goes, I got to take Kirby any day of the week, man. In a big game, I will take Kirby Smart. So that's why they're my national champion.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Georgia, obviously, odds-on favorite. Their odds recently have dropped from 325 to 285. So if you want to bet on Georgia to win the national championship, I suggest you do it now and before Saturday because that line's only going to continue to drop. Ohio State has the second best odds. I did choose the Buckeyes this year. And like you said, I do think Kirby head-to-head probably better than Ryan Day. But like we said and we've seen, Ryan Day's one missed kick away from Kirby Smart, or facing Kirby Smart, I should say, rather, than his entire coaching trajectory and what we've talked about him leading up to this year being completely different. But I will tell you this, and it really did come down to this for me because as much as somebody grew up in the state of Georgia and has supported the Georgia Bulldogs, I wanted to pick them. And I have national championship futures on both of these teams. These are the only two teams I have futures on. I just cannot see a world where neither one of these teams wins the national championship. But if you go back and you look at the bracket, who has the first round bye in mind? I have Ohio State with the first round bye. I have Georgia playing in the first round. Therefore, I have Georgia being a little bit more beat up. They have to go through it a little bit more. And that I think that one extra week of Ohio State having just one more week of fresh legs, that's what's going to put him over the edge. And Ryan Day gets his first national championship, and he gets 2 wins over Michigan this year in my playoff predictions.
Oh, I like it. That's awesome. I do like how you said that. I mean, the point that you're making about Ohio State would have that 1 extra week of rest, like I was saying earlier, the key staying healthy. But yeah, and that'd be 2 wins against Oregon, right?
Yes, 2 wins against Oregon, a loss in the regular season, and 2 in the postseason.
Yeah, I like it, man. That's good.
Yeah, man. And I think that bye week is something that I'm very interested to see how that pans out, because like you talked about when we recorded the Big Ten, is like there's going to be a team that catches fire. Like, exactly. I don't know if that's going to matter, but there's also, I think there's going to be at least 1, maybe 2 teams that get that first round bye, and they might benefit from it a little bit more than what people are perceiving to see right now. I'm really interested to see how that kind of plays out.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. That first round bye is definitely going to have an impact, whether it's negative or positive, on the teams that have a bye and the teams that keep playing. So we'll see.
100%. But Jake, me and you are about to get off the screen because there is another man that has a big part in this show. His name is Tyler Vaughn. I'll get it right the first time. And he is the man behind the camera. He's the producer, the editor of this show. He helps us out so much. We want him to be a part of this too. So he is going to come up here and talk about his college football playoff.
All right, what's up, guys? First time getting on the screen. Really excited to be a part of this podcast. So I do play football at Center College in Danville, Kentucky, Division III athlete. Let's go. But I'm going to talk about some D1 ball today and share with you my bracket predictions. And so here we are. Number 1 seed, I think Georgia's going to run the table in the SEC, and they're going to get the number 1 seed. Oregon's going to do the same thing in the Big Ten. I just think they have a lot of talent, and Dan Lanning I'm really high on. So I've got them as the 2 seed. 3, I've got Utah. I think that they're going to come into the Big 12, and they're just going to play their balls off, and they're just going to go in there, and they're going to beat up on some people. And so I've got them there at the 3. And in a rather weak ACC conference, I personally will look at talent, and I think that Dabo Swinney does do a very good job recruiting, whether or not he believes in the NIL and all that, and the Colt allegations. But I've got Clemson winning the ACC, taking the 4 seed. My 5 seed is Ohio State. They're going to be very good. However, they are not going to beat Oregon, and they're not going to win their conference. I just can't see it happening. History tends to repeat itself, and so I've got them there at the 5. My 6 seed is going to be Alabama, the SEC runner-ups. Again, I think Kalen DeBoer is a great coach, and they have all the talent in the world, but I don't think anybody can compete with Georgia this year. I've got them there at 6. 7, I've got Ole Miss. I think that they're going to finish 3rd in the SEC, and everybody knows the SEC is the best conference in college football. You can give me hate for that if you want to, but I've got them sitting there at the 7 seed. My 8 seed is going to be Notre Dame. They're going to sneak in. They always find a way. Doesn't matter how their season looks. They're going to find a way to get in. So I've got them there at the 8. Penn State at the 9. I'm really high on Drew Aller, and I think that he's going to be able to get the job done for them and get them into the playoff. I've got them there at the 9. The 10, I've got Texas. They've got a good football team. They're coming in ranked 3rd to begin the season. Sark, you got a lot of stuff to figure out if you want to compete in the SEC. So I've got them sitting there at the 10. I think he can do the job, but I don't think they're going to win the conference or be a top 2 seed from the SEC. So I've got them at 10. Michigan's going to slide in there at 11. They're a good football team. Whether or not you want to admit it, they lost a lot of guys, but they're still going to be legit. They're still going to play good football. Then my group of 5 is going to be Boise State. I personally think the Mountain West is probably arguably the best group of 5 conference. And so I believe Boise State in a pretty favorable schedule, especially that week 1 matchup, Hunter. I think that they're going to be pretty damn good, and they're going to sneak in the playoff at that 12 seed. So moving on, I guess you'll see my full bracket here. I've got Penn State beating Notre Dame. I just think that, like I said, I think Drew Aller is a great football player. I think he's a great quarterback. And I think he's going to be able to get the job done there. Ohio State will win with with ease against Boise State. They have a lot of talent, and they're really good. Jeremiah Smith is a really good football player. I think Will Howard's going to be a really good football player for them as well. The talent doesn't lie there. Ole Miss, I've got them beating Texas. Like I said, Sark has a lot of things he's got to put together to win in the SEC convincingly, and I just don't think he's quite there yet to move him past the first round. So I do have Ole Miss going there. And then in a rematch of last year's playoff, I've got Alabama beating Michigan. Jalen Milroe is a special talent, and I think that he will be able to easily take care of that Michigan defense. And so, yeah, that sets up pretty well for Ole Miss to play Oregon. Oregon's really freaking good. Dan Lanning's a stud. He's got some great ball players on his side. So I've got Oregon moving on there into the Final Four. Alabama is going to absolutely smoke Utah. I don't think it'll be close. I think the spread on that game will probably be by 3 touchdowns. Alabama will take care of them pretty easily. Onto the left side of the bracket, Georgia is just going to be way too much for Penn State to handle. Georgia's got, again, so much talent, and the difference here is going to be in the trenches. Georgia just has so many big bodies that are playing on that offensive line. They're going to be able to take care of that Penn State defense very well. And again, everybody's really high on Ohio State. I am too. And I've got them moving on the semis to play Georgia, who they will lose to. Again, I don't think anybody's touching Georgia this year. I think they're just going to be too good for Ohio State to handle. Maybe see a little magic like we did a couple years ago in the semifinals. So that might be a really fun game to watch. And then Oregon, Alabama is also going to be a fun game to watch. Both two teams with a lot of big play capabilities. But I do have the Ducks moving on to play Georgia in the national championship. And again, how about them Dogs, man? They're gonna be really good this year, and I do have them winning the national championship.
Good deal, man. You did a great job covering all that. It's a solid bracket right there. Solid bracket. First time on the screen, but you know what?
I love it.
You know what, Tyler? I'll tell you straight up. I'm gonna find out if those Boise State Broncos are worth a damn on Saturday.
Yeah, you are, and you're gonna see they're not playing the
two eyes.
Absolutely.
I love it. The best part of that was history tends to repeat itself by Tyler Vaughn. That was awesome. About the Ohio State. I love that. It's good.
Dude, that was good.
We'll see.
Great line. Great line.
Yes, sir.
But Tyler, we will bring you back on for the editor's note.
Huge.
Until then, just sit tight and enjoy the show, brother. Thank you.
We'll see you.
All right, Jake. You know what time it is.
About that time, baby.
Time to talk about some week 1 football. Let's go. The first individual game preview of the season. We've got the number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs versus the number 14th ranked Clemson Tigers, taking place at noon on ESPN and ABC, hosted at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, a neutral site, which is BS. I'm a huge guy for play the games on college campuses. They build the stadiums for a reason. But 100%. This is taking place at the home of the Atlanta Falcons, two teams that are not far from each other at all, not far distance to travel. The Dogs opened up as a 14.5-point favorite. That number is down to 13.5 after some of the talk about the running back room and how Trevor Etienne, probably not going to play, going to be suspended for a DUI he received back during the spring. And then Branson or I think it's Roderick Robinson is actually out with a foot or a leg injury. So I think that took the number down a little bit, but I think 13.5 is right there on the money. What do you have to say as far as like the spread goes?
No, I like it. I think it's right on the money, just like you said, but I do not see a world where Clemson is able to play 4 quarters with the Dogs and beat them. I think if you want to bet Clemson plus 13.5, fine, that's great. But as far as if you're going to touch money line and take in them to beat Georgia in week 1 for basically a home game, I can't see it happening.
No, I can get behind that take. Like I'm not going to be bold enough to promote anybody to take Clemson on the money line right now. I think Georgia's got those dudes up front, and Clemson not as veteran led as the Georgia offensive line. Like Peter Woods, he's a great defensive tackle, but he's a sophomore. I think that
The spread's good. Go ahead.
If we're talking middle of the field here, Clemson's, they've got some more veteran guys like my predicted ACC Player of the Year, Barrett Carter. But as far as dudes up front, I agree with you. I think Georgia, what's the number they got to score? I don't think it's that much, if I'm being honest. But I think they can just wear down Clemson and establish some sort of a running game. I don't know if the running back room is going to have that much of an effect on it because you still got the other Robinson, Branson. You got the true freshman, Frazier. Can't remember his first name, but his last name's Frazier. And then I'm sure you'll see a little bit of Dylan Bell in the backfield or maybe some Cash Jones. Georgia's got depth there. And this is also, as we talked about in the SEC preview, the deepest the Georgia wide receiver room has been maybe ever. Definitely under Kirby Smart. As far as top level talent to bottom level on the depth chart, everybody's talented. There's going to be dudes to throw the ball to. My biggest question is, can Clemson's secondary keep up with all of them? And I'll kind of let you lead in with that.
No, I agree. Everything you touched on is perfect. I went through both teams, both sides of the ball, a key for them to help the other side and the whole team win the football game. So I'm going to run through those really quick.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So for Georgia's defense, I think we need to put pressure on Cade Klubnik. Force this guy to beat us. Do not let Phil Maffa get going. Put pressure on him early. Force him to beat you. He's got new receivers. Force us, stack the box, and force him to throw. That's what I think the number one point is for UGA's defense. Bring some energy early, get some sacks, and don't be dumb and get dumb penalties. I feel like we see that a good bit with Georgia, especially early on in the season. No dumb penalties to get us behind the sticks, either on offense or defense, regardless. UGA offense. So I have for them to dominate the line of scrimmage. I think that's the biggest factor in all of our games. We play a top 25 team. I think that's the biggest factor. Dominate up front. You have 4 starters returning. We should be able to dominate the line of scrimmage in every game we play, but there's a lot of times where we come out flat up front in big games like this. And when the run game is working, when you can get the run game going early, get a few first downs on a few 15-yard runs, Carson Beck will be able to sit back there and have a field day with the weapons he's got this year. So get the run game going early. That'll open up the whole field for the rest of the game for the Dogs. Moving on to Clemson with their offense. Like I said a minute ago, I don't see a world where Clemson can truly come to Atlanta and beat this Georgia team week 1, just with how the position matchups, everything. So for their offense, I think they should have long, drawn-out drives. If you can hold the ball for 5, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 14 plays, get the Georgia defense tired, wear them down, and that starts with getting the run game going. I cannot see Cade Klubnik throwing for 300 yards and winning this game for Clemson. Going to Clemson's defense, I think personally, if I'm Clemson, I don't want to let Carson Beck, one of the Heisman favorites, just let him sit back there and throw. I would try to force the run, have a bunch back in coverage and force the run, especially just because you don't have Roderick Robinson this week, Georgia, and then you don't have ETN. Your top 2 backs of the offseason are out. For some of these young guys that haven't had a ton of major snaps to get in there. And so, yeah, that's what I got. And then I put for I lean Dogs -30. I've leaned them on the spread. I think 3/4 it's going to be close. But Georgia always finds a way in the second half to just come out in a different gear, especially in the fourth quarter. You've seen it time and time again with Kirby. And especially in week 1, the boys are going to be ready, which Clemson will be ready too. They know what they're walking into. I lean Dogs on the spread, and I leaned Clemson first half spread. Whatever the number is, I don't care. The Dogs always come out flat. So in the first, they'll probably score a first play touchdown knowing Georgia's defense.
Man, that was really good job covering them. I think the biggest point of emphasis I want to focus on is how is Georgia's young secondary going to control Clemson. Now, granted, Clemson does not have that stud wide receiver that has stood out yet. Can that guy kind of sort of establish himself this week? Who knows? But I agree with you. I think the biggest key right now is Georgia's front 7.
Exactly.
They come out slow. They come out slow every game. They always give up a first drive touchdown or a first quarter touchdown, or they did last year. 2 years ago, that wasn't the case. 3 years ago, that wasn't the case. Can that change this year? We shall see. Yeah. Cade Klubnik, I don't think they're just going to be having him air it out. I don't know if Georgia's – throughout the game at least, Georgia's defensive line is going to allow him to have that much time. I don't think they're going to allow him to be able to sit back there with the 5-step drops and just find that rhythm. I just don't think that's going to be a consistent thing for him throughout this game, but we shall see. I think another big thing I'm interested to see on Clemson's offense is Phil Maffa.
Yeah.
It was really good when he had Will Shipley there with him. There was 2 premier backs that were both very good. Who's going to be that next guy up underneath Phil Maffa this year? That's going to be very interesting to see to me, because if they don't have depth at running back, they're not going to be able to beat Georgia. But I agree with you. Clemson first half spread. Georgia's going to come out a little slow, and it really does not matter what the number is. I do like the Tigers in that spot. And I agree with you. I think for about 3 to 3.5 quarters, this game's going to be close, 1 possession, 1.5 possession. I think it gets that 2 possession, the 2.5 possession in the fourth quarter. But like I said, I think 13.5 is a solid number. I don't have a side in either one. I'm not going to lean Georgia. I'm not going to lean Clemson. I think Vegas got it just right. If I had to pick a side after your tremendous breakdown, I guess I would lean dogs at 13.5. But if that number was at about 16.5, I'd lean Clemson. Like, I think it's that close of a margin.
I agree.
So
I think you said you didn't know what you think the number would be, but what do you think the number is for Georgia? If you had to pick one. I think I know what mine is, but we'll see what you got.
It just depends on how good the defense is, obviously. But the number to win this game for Georgia, I think it's 24 to 27 points.
Yeah.
If I like anything to bet on in this game, it's the under. I don't see either team coming out firing. I think Georgia knows that they don't have to score 50 points. They don't have to come out and just be this explosive team to whoop up on Clemson. I think after 4 quarters, they got the dudes to take care of business.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm thinking the 24 to 27 range. I think Clemson, they'll probably get 17 to 20 points, maybe. But the number to beat, I think for Georgia to certify win in this game is no less than 27 points.
Yeah.
I don't see Clemson scoring more than 24.
No.
That's how I look at that. But I do like the under in this game. I believe the total's sitting at 49.5, I believe.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. We'll have to check that one on FanDuel. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's actually a little bit lower than that. But we will move on from the dogs to the other. This is big noon on Saturday. Traveling to Morgantown, West Virginia. Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt on the call. It is the Penn State Nittany Lions, ranked 8th in the country, traveling to Morgantown to take on the West Virginia Mountaineers. Penn State opened as a 9.5-point favorite. That is now down a full 0.2. And actually, the line right now has even gone down since this was made tonight. This is now down to 8 from 8.5. A lot of money coming in on West Virginia. Wow. Stat came in today. The 3 most bet on money lines from Sunday to, we're recording this on Wednesday night. Number 1, Notre Dame. Number 2, North Dakota State, ironically enough. They play Colorado tomorrow. And number 3, West Virginia. A lot of money line tickets coming in on West Virginia. Jake, I'll let you kick us off here with this big noon Saturday game.
Yeah, this is going to be an awesome first game for the first big noon Saturday of the year. That it's going to be rocking. This is going to be one of those games where we're going to have 2 TVs set up at all times on Saturday. But this game going on during the Georgia game kind of sucks because this is going to be a great game. I'm excited for it. Getting into it. So I think West Virginia, obviously, all of the hype is around your 3 guys in the backfield: Garrett Green, Jaheim White, and CJ Donaldson. Obviously, you want to get the run game going. You want all 3 of them to use their legs and carry you throughout the game, essentially. I just don't think you're going to be able to do that against Penn State. I just don't think this is a good matchup for West Virginia. I think the hype around the game is cool, and playing a ranked team like that at your place is awesome. I just don't think it's a good matchup offensively for West Virginia just because of how good Penn State's defense is going to be. Now, I think a lot of that rests on West Virginia's offensive coordinator. I'm not going to try to act like I know who it is because I don't. But I think if he can call a great game like Buster Faulkner did last week against Florida State, get Garrett Green going earlier. I'm still not set on him as a passer, but we're going to see early. I think he's going to have a very solid chance to win the fans and the country over with a big – if you go in – Week 1 and you beat a ranked opponent like Penn State, oh my gosh, the hype around West Virginia on Monday will be crazy. So yeah, that's what I think. And for Penn State, touching on them a little bit more, just play a normal Penn State defense like you do week in and week out, except when you're not playing Ohio State or Michigan. I think the number for Penn State here is like 20. I think 20 points wins you the football game. Singleton, I love him. I think his line's only like 60 yards. I like Singleton to go for 100 this week. I know you're not set on Drew Aller, but I think you're going to be less set on him after this week. I don't think it's a good matchup for him in their secondary because they have a very solid, experienced secondary and throwing in that. I mean, that place is going to be crazy. So give me a few more weeks on Drew Aller, Hunter. You're going to see, I promise. But yeah, I think you score 17 to 20 points. I'm very high on the under here, so that's what I got on this one. What do you think?
Well, it's funny that you bring up that Drew Aller point there at the end. That's really funny because, it's ironic. You know what Drew Aller's best game was last year?
What?
It was against West Virginia at home. Now, they were playing at home. He had like 524 yards and 4 touchdowns. Maybe it was
imagine.
But I'm pretty sure if I heard correctly, this stat could have been mispronounced on the air that I heard on CBS Sports Network this morning. But Drew Aller supposedly, I can't remember, it was 450 yards or 500 whatever yards.
I'm about to tell you. With 21, he went 21 for 29 with a 73% completion percentage on 325 yards.
Oh, well, they just totally messed that number up. But it's fine. Still, that's probably the best. They said it was the best game of his career. 500.
Oh, yeah. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a good day for Mr. Aller.
That's the best game he's had in his career. However, that was at home. This is on the road. I've seen Aller play solid teams on the road and good defenses specifically. And I don't know. I'm just, like I said in my Big Ten preview that we filmed on Wednesday, I'm not sold on him yet. Not saying the door's closed, but it's closing.
Yeah.
But the Mountaineers offense, their offensive line lost some leadership. I'm not necessarily sold on Garrett Green as a passer. He's got to prove it to me as a passer. But his playmaking abilities with him getting out of the pocket, throwing on the run, making some good plays, I can buy into that. C.J. Donaldson out of the backfield. I really like him. He's a huge monster. Came in as playing a linebacker position, I believe. Transferred over to running back. Now he's just that big SOB running through the line. But we'll see. Is that offensive line going to be as good as it was last year? We're losing some leadership.
Yeah.
Front, their best defensive lineman, gone, out of there. How's that going to affect? But then you look at Penn State's offensive line. Their best offensive lineman, Olu Fashanu, first-round draft pick, out of there. It's going to be very interesting to see. Like you said, West Virginia, good secondary. I've been saying it all week. The Mountaineers are live. They've canceled class on Friday. Pat McAfee show going to be there at his alma mater.
Yeah.
Live in Morgantown. But with all,
I like it. Yeah. So I'm not back. Go ahead.
Anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Hang on, we'll do that right there.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We'll do that right there. Hang on 1 second. I got to
good.
Yeah, hang on. I got to think about what I was. Okay, here we go. I know I was on them all week. I've been high on the Mountaineers. I said they're live, and I still believe they are live. But if I know anything, is that Vegas and sports gambling has probably the biggest influence, not just on professional sports, but college sports, especially football and basketball.
Yeah.
And with all this money coming in on West Virginia, I've flipped it. I'm on Penn State now. I'm on Penn State.
I like it. I like it.
I'm on Penn State to win this game. I still think they'll find a way to mess up their chance of going to the playoff. But
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if West Virginia won this game. But with going a little bit more in depth on it, looking at it on paper, now games are not played on paper. Just ask Michigan versus TCU in the Fiesta Bowl of 2022. Okay, games are not played on paper. But looking at it on paper, this matchup is not as evenly matched as I once perceived it was. I am flipping my pick to the Nittany Lions. I do like Nick Singleton. I like his Russian prop this week, and I know we'll hop more into that in a little bit.
Yeah, no, I like it. I went back and looked. Garrett Green last year against Penn State. They were on the road. He went 16-27 for 162 yards to the air, 59% completion percentage. He had 71 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. I just think when we talked about this in our Big 12 preview, when we talked about West Virginia, Garrett Green has to get that completion percentage up. You have two of the best running backs in the country. Complete 60 to 65% of your passes. This is going to be a very dangerous offense. But yeah, I have no clue how to bet this game. I'm not going to recommend how. I think that line is just scary to me. But if it were to get down to 7.5, yeah, I'm probably going to be on Penn State with you. So
I 100% agree. Now, granted, I have not bet a side in this game. I have no favoritism whatsoever. Because I was all over when that line was at 9.5. I was like, for West Virginia, hammer it, sprinkle on the money line. Like I said, dove a little bit more into it. That line is all the way down to 8 as we speak right now. I know it says 8.5 on the screen. It has changed that fast. That much money coming in on West Virginia. I'm staying away from it at 8, but I 100% agree with you. This number gets down to 7. That's a Penn State bet for me.
Yeah.
However, and I know we got a little bit more on it in a second, I like the under. Just going to leave that.
Yeah. I love the under.
No, leave that there.
Yeah.
All right. 3:30 ESPN, the first SEC 3:30 game. It's sad that this game can't be played on CBS. I'm going to miss those trumpets playing. Instead, they're covering Ohio State Akron with the biggest spread, with the Buckeyes favored by 49.5. So, whatever. Anyways, ESPN, SEC on ESPN, first time in 2024. The Miami Hurricanes open up, and this line has not moved since it came out all the way back after spring. Some of these lines came out after spring practice and the spring games and the spring portal session. And this line has not moved from 2.5 one time. It has stayed at 2.5. I would not be surprised if it moves to 3 on Saturday. I also wouldn't be surprised if it moved to 2 on Saturday. However, Cam Ward, Damian Martinez, Mario Cristobal, we covered all of Miami in the ACC preview. You have Miami winning the ACC. They're traveling to the Swamp. They're taking on Billy Napier, Graham Mertz, and Eugene Wilson. Name to look out for. Can he take that Ricky Pearsall wide receiver 1 position? Can he fill those shoes nicely? We shall see. A little in-state rivalry. Wish it was played every year, but it cannot be due to the new conferences. I think Billy Napier's coaching for his job every week, but especially it starts right now. And I know that's very simple to say since this is week 1, but I think this game has so much meaning on it. It's the in-state rival. You're playing an ACC team. You're the SEC team. You're at home. You're probably getting 3 points on the spread. This spread would probably be 5.5 to 6 on a neutral field, but you're getting them at home. You got to get the boys up. You're coaching for your job. Because if you want to keep your job at the end of the season, you got to get your boys up in August and September. Yeah. Because if you don't get them up in August and September, your boys aren't going to be ready to play when that 5-week stretch comes about starting in October. So
yeah,
that's my little preview on it. I'll let you get into your little deep dive, and then I'll piggyback off of you, brother.
Yeah, for sure. I think if Billy Napier is any sort of motivator, any kind of motivational guy, which he is a college football coach in the Southeastern Conference, he should be. Florida Gators will be ready to come out firing on Saturday. All offseason, since January, we have heard, in the state of Florida specifically, we have heard about the tough Florida schedule, how Billy Napier is going to be coaching for his job every week. You have a new quarterback coming in, DJ Lagway. It's just been, how are they going to win 2 games? Are they going to shock some people? There's been a lot of just shit talk about Florida. Everybody feels bad for them in that schedule. And then in the same state, Miami, biggest transfer quarterback comes in, Cam Ward, Mario Cristobal. I mean, it's the whole thing around Miami, all of the hype around Miami. And I have them as my ACC champion. And I would like to put out there that I already have Miami money line put down. But once, like you said, starting to look at some of these games on paper, and once you go into the Swamp, I don't care who it is that's going in. I don't care If it's Georgia, Ohio State, Miami, once you go into the swamp, all bets are off. I think anything can happen. I think it's Florida. I got a bad feeling it's Florida. I had Miami to win the ACC championship. I had Miami money line, but I have a really bad feeling it's Florida. And that's going to eat me alive. But yeah, I think this game is bigger for Billy Napier rather than Mario Cristobal, because if Miami loses this game, they still have everything in front of them. It does not matter at all. You can still go 11-1, 10-2, and reach the ACC championship, win that, and get in the playoff. So, but Florida, man, Billy Napier loses this with 11 games left in that schedule. Ooh, yeah, I think it's Florida. That's what I got.
Gators 27-24. Score
that is awesome.
That is awesome. First.
And I have a little yeah, if there was refunds in gambling, I'd love it, because I probably would refund my pick here. But I'm going to stick with Miami. I have like a little wish list for week 1. I'm not going to name everything I have on there, just as far as I don't want to be too biased. But I would love to see a DJ Lagway red zone package. They get down on like the 5-yard line, and the future Cam Young comes in. So this whole offseason, my boss from work, shout out Scott Kaler, huge Gator fan, he has made me believe that DJ Lagway is the next coming of Cam Newton, that this guy is the truth. So if he comes in on Saturday on the 5-yard line, oh my gosh, I'll lose it.
So I just want you to picture this. And Tyler, if you can add in the music, I don't know if we'll get a copyright strike. If that's against the bylaws, then please don't do it. But like, if you can make at least 5 seconds of this happen, Stinchko, I need you to just close your eyes. I want you to imagine it's 17-14. Florida has got the lead, and they are driving down the field to score their next touchdown. They're about on the 50. Clock hits 0 at the third quarter.
Yep.
Lights go out. Little blue flashing lights come on,
and
you just hear Tom Petty playing. Hey,
I have chills,
baby.
I have the chills. That's gonna be awesome, man. That game, it's gonna be rocking. That game's a coin flip too. I think all these games are coin flips. They really are.
Yeah, this game.
I feel like and you'll see this in the next few games we cover. Since the offseason, you got your 5 games that are the marquee games of the week. And all offseason, I've thought I've had who I lean towards in each one. But now, getting ready to do this preview, looking at it more on the X's and O's rather than what you've seen on Twitter and TV all offseason. These games, I don't know, man. A lot of these games are just coin flips. This is awesome.
I agree.
We are so back. We are
so back. So back. No, I'm excited. But I agree with you, man. I think it's a must win. It's a must win. And it's so crazy to say.
Yeah, it's a must. Yeah.
That's so insane typically to say for a week 1 game. But this game is must win for the Florida Gators. And even if they win this game, I'm not saying that Billy Napier won't get fired. It doesn't mean he won't fall apart. But I just got that feeling, man. I think the Gators get it done against the Hurricanes. And I think it's going to come down to this. You look at Cam Ward, okay? When he is in a rhythm and he is on time, when he hits that 3rd step or that 5th step of his drop, he's on rhythm. He's good.
Yeah. Don't let him get comfortable.
He's completing 70% of those passes.
I agree. Yeah.
But the second you make him uncomfortable in that pocket, he completes below 50% of his passes. So he's actually better when he's in a rhythm, and he doesn't have that ability to extend the play and be that game changer. So it's going to come down, I think, more than anything else. It's not going to be Florida's offense. It's not going to be Miami's. It's going to be Florida's defense that is going to be the difference in this game. If they can play well, they will hold on and they will win. If they're sloppy, it could get ugly real fast.
I agree. And if I don't know who Miami's offense coordinator is either, but I think that you're going to see a lot of touches from Damian Martinez. I think that they know what kind of environment and what kind of trap they're walking into. I don't think you're going to see 40 passing attempts with Cam Ward. Like you just said, I think Florida knows if we get pressure on this guy, he's going to be very uncomfortable. So I think we'll see Damian Martinez and his impact on this offense very early. So, yeah, that's what we got on that one.
And that brings us to our next game on the slate. This is a Sunday night game, a standalone game on Sunday night. Played in Las Vegas, home of the Raiders, the 13th ranked LSU Tigers taking on the Southern Cal Trojans. LSU opened up as a 6-point favorite, and this line is already down to 4.5. However, a little reverse line movement going on here. 85% of the bets are on LSU, and the money just keeps on flying in. Vegas up to some tricks. What do you think about this first-time starting QB matchup that we got going on? Two brand new starting QBs, Jake Garrett Nussmeier and LSU, Miller Moss and USC. Give me some brief thoughts on them before we go deep into detail.
Hunter, I have no clue. This is the one game that I have not really leaned either way on all off season. Both teams, you don't have a bunch of data on either quarterback. Brian Kelly, sucks in openers. USC doesn't have a defense. LSU doesn't have a defense. Two wild card quarterbacks in the country. Give me Lincoln Riley with the points and a Sunday night thriller to end week one. Well, we have a game on Monday, but
yeah, I think the biggest thing here is just, and we talked about this in our SEC preview. I think this is just going to be the biggest thing for me as far as LSU goes. Okay. Everybody's talking about, yeah, man, like we made some improvements on the back end of our defense. Like we got 33% better. Okay. We're bringing in a new OC. His name Mike Denbrock, I'm pretty sure, from Notre Dame. No, he's at Notre Dame. He left LSU. Now he's at Notre Dame. We'll talk more about them in a second. But they got a new OC because of some controversy that happened between him and Kelly. So not only do you get a new OC, but if you lose 33% of your defense, you're losing like 45% of your offense because you're losing the Heisman Trophy winner. You're losing Brian Thomas. You're losing Malik Neighbors. 3 first-round draft picks all right there, gone. And I don't care how good. And I've seen Garrett Nussmeier throw the football. He is talented. He can throw the ball. He has great pocket awareness. But he cannot produce with his legs like Jane Daniels did. Now,
I agree.
LSU's offensive line, one of the best in the country, one of the best in the SEC. I will give them credit there. I don't know how well USC is going to be able to match up with them up front. Can they wear down on them? I don't know. However, where I am confident in USC is they did bring in a new defensive coordinator. When UCLA, I should say, had D'Anton Lynn, they went from having the 127th best defense in the country 1 year with D'Anton Lynn, 10th ranked defense in the country. He was the only reason they stayed in any game last year because they had no competence on offense whatsoever. So I've seen what he can do when he brings in the right personnel. And like you said, he likes to send the house, or he likes to put a little bit more pressure on that offensive line and on the quarterback and rely on his DBs. He brought in a few personnel guys to play DB. So I'm a little bit more confident in USC's back half and their secondary than I would have been before D'Anton Lynn got there. Mm-hmm. With all that being said, I still have no effing clue where I'm going to go with this game. I think the biggest key component as far as this game goes is just whose defense is going to suck less, because Miller Moss, he's a Lincoln Riley QB. I have no doubt the last 3 QBs this guy's had, they've all won the Heisman Trophy. I'm not saying Miller Moss is going to win the Heisman Trophy, but he's going to be a good quarterback. He's got Zach Branch. He's got Deuce Robinson. Zach Branch is next level speed. This guy is tremendously fast. Deuce Robinson, reliable with his hands, big body receiver. LSU, who's going to fill in those roles at the receiver position? Who's going to be the stud running back? I haven't seen LSU with a stud running back in a few years now, where I'm just like, they used to produce them with Leonard Fournette and Jeremy Hill and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Is there going to be somebody to emerge? There's just so many wild cards here. It comes down to, I feel like Lincoln Riley usually has his team more prepared when he has time to prepare, such as, well, unless it's the playoff. Guy can't win a playoff game to save his life. However, regular bowl games and season openers, I'm going to trust Lincoln Riley more than I'm going to trust Brian Kelly. That guy cannot win a big-time bowl game to save his life either, and he can't win a season opener against a competent team. And I think he hasn't done it in 3 of the last 4 years. Or LSU hasn't done it as a team in the last 3 of the 4 years. He's been there for 2 years, and they've gotten beat by a mediocre FSU team 2 years ago. FSU was really good last year, but still, that game wasn't even competitive, and you had the Heisman Trophy winner on your team. For those reasons, I'm taking USC to win this game outright. I'm not touching the total because there's a chance that could fly over 64 points, but there's also a chance for some odd reason, let's say both defenses did improve, that game could go under 64. Who's to say? Who's to know? It's going to be interesting. Biggest wild card game of the weekend for sure.
No, I like it. I like that coverage for sure. Just a wild card game, wild card coaches really in big games. Everything wild card about this game. I wrote down final score 44-38 Trojans. I feel like this is one of those games where you feel like with these offenses and these defenses and the way they're structured and the matchups work, you feel like there's going to be 80, 90 points scored. And you always fall into that trap as there's going to be a lot of points. But for some reason, I feel like it's going to be both offenses are going to start out slow and we see a lower scoring game, at least for these defenses and offenses. So that's what I got on this. I'm hung on this game. I don't have a clue. Man, this is another coin flip like we talked about.
Huge coin flip game, definitely the wild card game of the week, but I am leading Trojans as we speak right now. And that brings us to the Saturday night main event, college game day, 7:30 kickoff, Fowler and Herb Street on the call. Gosh, we're going to be so back. Kyle Field, the Texas
Mike Elko Bowl,
hosting the 7th ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish with everything to prove this year. Marcus Freeman trying to get this team over the hump. Let's get into the playoff with him as the head coach. He has not done that as the head coach of Notre Dame. Let's get him in the playoff. Let's show we're one of the best defenses out there. And let's prove we can go win this dang thing and get at least the 5 seed and run the table. A&M still got a bunch of 4 and 5 stars running around on defense, man. Still got a 5-star quarterback. Got one of the best game managers as far as coaching goes. And the man with the plan, one of the best prep guys, I would say, in Mike Elko. You got offensive coordinator Colin Klein, huge steal from Kansas State, might I add. I mean, that guy had a lifetime job at Kansas State.
Yeah.
Mike Elko snags him. I think that's going to have a big, big deal to do with this game. And Connor Wegman, if the guy can stay healthy, I have faith in the Aggies. I think this is just going to be a slaughter fest, defensive masterclass by both teams. This might just be a field goal fest for all I know. Jake, my early thoughts. Tell me what you got, brother.
Yeah, I don't have a lot on this game. It's just another coin flip. We keep saying it over and over again. This is going to be a great primetime game. I like the Notre Dame roster structure more. I think this team's more put together, I guess, right now and as we stand today. And I like Riley Leonard better at quarterback. I like Notre Dame's how their transfers and the immediate impact that their transfers are going to make. I like that better for Notre Dame as well. But with that being said, I do not like this Notre Dame squad going into Kyle Field week 1 of the Mike Elko era. So I'll take the Aggies in this one.
I'm right there with you, man. And I think the biggest thing, and we talked about it when we recorded the Big Ten, and I think we talked about it even a little bit. We talked about the SEC. We previewed both of these teams. If there's anybody that's going to prepare for Riley Leonard the correct way and knows the best way to stop him, it is Mike Elko. He's going to abuse the true – it's confirmed, the true freshman left tackle, and this team's having to step onto Kyle Field with a new head coach with reset expectations, fully expecting this team to at least show promise and take that next step forward that they just never saw under Jimbo Fisher. I think it just comes down to the place to play. I really do think this is just going to be a defensive masterclass by both teams. It might just take one touchdown to win this game. I really do like the under in this game. It's scary that I'm saying this because I like a lot of unders this week. So I might end up staying away, but we'll talk more about as far as betting goes on this game a little bit down the road. But I am liking A&M this week.
Yes, sir.
All right. And now, is it time? Is it time? It is.
It's time.
And as I said, we'll talk about this more down the road. Well, it's right here for those watching on YouTube, and you can see everything on our screen right now. For those not listening on YouTube, listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, this is one best bets from podcast 129. Me and Jake have three each, I should say, all separate games that we really enjoy. We really think that these lines we're going to move. We need to capitalize on them before Saturday. And this is where our money is at right now if we were betting men. Anyways, Texas A&M money line is my first bet. Right now it's at minus 150, probably going to continue to crawl up if I had to guess. I'm willing to lay the $5 extra. Right now the line's at 3. I think this game could quite literally end 9-6 if it wanted to. So I trust the money line right here. It's not too heavily juiced. I like A&M money line, and that's going to be my first best bet of the week. Jake?
Yeah, I like it. So my first best pick of the week is Hawaii plus 14 at home against UCLA, with UCLA going across the pond to face this Hawaii team. UCLA has lost everybody. They lost their coach. They lost their defensive coordinator. They lost their quarterback who went to be a backup quarterback. I love the 14 points here. Braden Shager, the quarterback for Hawaii, he's a senior from Dallas, Texas, coming off of a 3,500-yard passing yard season. And all of his receivers are back, and they have a week under their belt. I know last week they were laying like 40, came out flat. Probably didn't want to show their best stuff before you play a big opponent like UCLA. So I like Hawaii plus 14 for my first best pick of the week.
I like that. I actually like Strager a lot. Third-year starter.
Yeah, he's good.
Fifth year. I think he's a fifth year, but he's
a fifth year.
Third-year starter. He likes this system. Second year in the system, maybe third. I think it's a second year in the system, second year Hawaii. UCLA having to travel now. What are their, I'm not high on UCLA. We'll get more into them shockingly later on in this video. However, I do like this pick. And I think the biggest advantage that you might not have hit on was that Hawaii's already played a game. They played a game last week, so they've already got a little bit of a rhythm. They got a little bit of a feel. They got their feet under them. UCLA's kind of went blind into this. New head coach, new OC. It's going to be weird. New DC. I mean, they got new everything at UCLA right now. So I like plus 14 for Hawaii. My second best bet, we just talked about it. Not going to dive too much into it. This is the number I got it at. I got USC plus 4.5. I like the points here, and I think 4.5 is like the perfect number. I could see this game ending not 24-20, but that multiply that by 2. We'll just say 44-40. I could see this game ending right there around that touchdown and that little half possession margin, I guess is the term I'm looking to use. That's sitting at minus 110. I like USC to keep it within half a possession of LSU. Jake?
I like it. Excuse me. My second best pick of the week, we already talked about it earlier, so I won't take too much time up here. Penn State, West Virginia, the under of total points in that game. I think it's going to be very low scoring throughout, very slow drives from both teams. And I'll go ahead and get into my next one, which is the Minnesota Golden Gophers opening up the season at home versus Mac Brown's Tar Heels from North Carolina. I have them in a little teaser there, and we have it right out there on the screen. Plus 8, bringing the spread up to 8. I think it's sitting at 2 right now, and then under 56.5. I think you have 2 stud running backs. You got Darius Taylor from Minnesota and Amarian Hampton. I love both of these running backs anytime touchdown. I think both of them get in the end zone tomorrow night. And I believe this is tomorrow night. I don't think it's Friday, but I think it's tomorrow night at 8. UNC has a brand new defensive coordinator trying to reinforce a defense who they brought most everybody back, but this defense gave up over 400 yards a game last season. And Minnesota officially has a quarterback. Max Brosmer, the FCS hero, has entered the chat. This guy's coming off 2 straight 3,000-yard seasons. And not saying it's going to directly translate to this game or this season in general, playing at a whole different speed of football. But I think he's better, the best quarterback that Luke Fickell has had in a while. I will take the Minnesota Golden Gophers plus 8 and the under going up, buying it up to 6 points.
I love that tease a lot. I'm on that with you. I tailed it with you. I think that's just beautiful. I think this is going to be a very low scoring game. Like you said, Amarion Hampton, Darius Taylor. Now Taylor is questionable. However, I don't think it's going to matter. Minnesota's got the big boys up front that can handle the North Carolina front on defense. I like Max Brosmer. That guy was a legend at New Hampshire. Shout out FCS ball. So I'm on that one with you. I'm also on the Penn State, West Virginia under. We talked about that one already. I do lean under 51.5. I don't think even if Penn State blows out West Virginia, it's not going to take a lot of points. So I do like that under. And my final best bet of the week, I bought 1 point on this to bring it to minus 130. I don't mind laying the extra $3. Give me Kurt Sangetti and the Indiana Hoosiers, bro. This guy used to run the Sun Belt with JMU, and I know all about me some Kurt Sangetti. Got a lot of good talent in the transfer portal. Give me the Hoosiers minus 20.5. 3 touchdowns against FIU. FIU is one of the worst group of 5 teams in all of ball, and it's at home. Give me 3 touchdowns and give me the Hoosiers to cover this spread as my last week 1 best bet.
I like it. I like that spot a lot, man. That's a good one.
And we wouldn't be talking about gambling if there wasn't a parlay to talk about, for sure. So hopefully, starting this week and leading into the next few, we're going to do a little 3-leg parlay every week. For those watching on YouTube, sorry about the graphic messing up right here, but for those listening on podcast, it does not make a difference. So I'll run through these real fast. These are all 3 legs that me and Jake discussed and decided were best for us. As it's not stuff that we're on for straight bets. Didn't want to get the 2 mixed up and just have a lot of money on one spot. Jake hit on it earlier. Nick Singleton, over 57.5 rush yards. We think that Penn State's offensive line is going to be able to do enough. The only concern, there is a 2-back system at Penn State, but just need Singleton to break off a few. He definitely is the premier back in my opinion, and I think this is an easy total that he can get over. Next up, Commodores. Vandy, didn't think we'd be seeing a whole lot of them, but at home, Clark Lee, Diego Pavia, they're playing Virginia Tech in Nashville. Nobody's going to be there. I believe in Pavia. I believe in Clark Lee to keep this within 2 touchdowns. I think Virginia Tech's a really good team. We talked about in the ACC preview, ACC champion dark horse. However, I think it's going to take some time to get that going. A lot of people have been just talking about them. And this line has not moved hardly at all. If anything, it's going down. I'm liking the Commodores in this spot. And Jake, I'll let you cap us off with the fruit, brother.
Hold on a second. I'm going to have to do a little this right here real quick. When I thought I took notes on this, but I didn't. And I really like this Syracuse spot. Who in the hell are they playing?
Ohio.
That's right. Ohio. Who has lost like everybody. Okay. My bad, guys. All right. Yeah, I'll start it off.
Just start with Syracuse, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, the third leg of this little parlay we got going here. I like the Syracuse Orange and Kyle McCord's first start. Not even 3 touchdowns. I think this is a great spot for them against an Ohio team who has lost just about everybody. So, yeah, not a bunch to touch on there. Just give me Syracuse with the point, 17.5.
Yeah, Syracuse, my wild card team, the ACC. I think they're going to win some games they're not supposed to, probably lose a few that they're not supposed to, bringing in a lot of talent. We talked about Fran Brown. That's probably the biggest concern is that he's never had a big stage as a head coach. Not that this is a big stage, but he's just never been a head coach in general. But like I said, with all the talent that they got in versus all the talent that left Ohio, I could see this game getting out of hand. Give me Syracuse in the Dome on Saturday. Lay the 17.5, brother.
I like it.
And we had to run it back. Boys, we hit the 2-man last week on week 0. Jake had the over rushing yards for Haynes King. I had the over passing yards for Preston Stone. First ever 2-man cashed. And this week, Prize Picks decided to give us a gift. Jalen Milroe has to throw for 1 yard 1 yard. I'm pretty sure they're playing Western Kentucky. Alabama, 1 passing yard with Jalen Milroe. That's a free square. We were honing in. They didn't have the most squares available, but this is the one that I think that we felt the most confident about. Jake talked about it. He straight up asked me, and he straight up gave his take on this podcast. Who's going to be the guy to step up for Georgia when Beck needs it? I think Dylan Bell established himself as he can be that type of guy in the Tennessee game last year. This nine's at 37.5. The only concern is that Georgia's got weapons everywhere. But with the two running backs being out, I think the ball's going to be in the air a little bit more than originally planned. And Dylan Bell can get underneath a few defenses if they keep running deep route concepts or middle route concepts. He can run the drag. He can run the go. All it's going to take is a few receptions, and we like Dylan Bell to get over 37.5 receiving yards.
Love it. Right on, man.
All right. Well, that's all we got on the week 1. But we're not quite done yet. We have got some 2024 future bets. This is what we looked at a few win totals, thought about, looked at the schedules, looked at the spots. Some of these teams we've covered, some of them actually we did not cover a single one of mine, so I'm going to have to do a solid job. We talked about all 3 of Jake's, so I'll go first here since Jake will be quick, and I won't take too long. UCLA, under 5.5 wins. Just talked about it a little bit when we were covering Hawaii for a split second there. Deshaun Foster, new head coach. I don't know if anybody watched Big Ten Media Days, but if that guy can't give a better speech than that, I have no confidence in him going out and being able to talk into a quarterback's headset. You do get Eric Bieniemy, the new offensive coordinator, coming from the Kansas City Chiefs. However, that's pro ball. It's not college. We'll see. I don't know how that's going to work yet. That's just going to be – that's a wild card. I just don't think UCLA has the talent. And also, UCLA has to travel 3/4 of the circumference of planet Earth for their away games this year. They have to go to LSU. They have to go to Hawaii. They have to go to a lot of different places. They have to go to like 2 or 3 East Coast teams in the Big Ten. They are traveling so much. I think they have the most travel of any team in college football this year. It is insane. I do not like the schedule. I do not like this staff. And I certainly do not like this talent after Chip Kelly left them back in January. I like UCLA to go under 5.5, and they will not make a bowl game. Next up, I got Arizona State. I don't have a lot on them except that their schedule might be the hardest in the Big 12, and they might have the least talented roster in the Big 12. And their win total sitting at 5.5, and I think it's moved down to 4.5 since then. But I got it at 5.5. I would take this all the way down to 3.5. Like, they have no talent on their team. Kenny Dillingham still have to deal with the sanctions left behind by Herm Edwards. It's going to be a long road for Arizona State, and I'm not high on them at all. And finally, we talked about it a little bit when recording the Big Ten preview. Washington Huskies, 6.5 wins. I'm not against them making a bowl game, but they're not doing any more than 6. They have a completely different roster. I think when it whittled down to it, they have 3% of their production on both offense and defense coming back next year. They have a completely new staff. Don't get me wrong. I love Jed Fish. I think he is a great head coach. I was a fan of Will Rogers at Mississippi State. I don't think that's going to work at Washington as well as it did at Mississippi State. But I'm not against Washington making a bowl game, but there's no way they get to 7. I don't think they do make a bowl game, and I got them going under 6.5 wins. Jake, I'll let you talk about your win totals.
Yeah, I like all 3 of yours. I did not think Washington's would be that high. I figured it'd be maybe 4.5, 5.5. Because like you just said, Jed Fish is a great coach, but complete restart across the board. I'll run through mine really quick, and I talked about these in the preview. I covered all 3 of these teams in the previews. You can go back and watch. But South Carolina, under 5.5 wins. I think Shane Beamer will be gone earlier than people think after they lose to Vandy there in the middle of the schedule. And then Oklahoma State, obviously, I said earlier that I have them winning excuse me, the Big 12 title game. So I have them over 8 wins. And even if they don't win the Big 12 title game and not even are there at that game, I think eight is a easy number for them to reach with their schedule. And A&M, another playoff team I have, they have one of the more favorable SEC schedules. It all starts on Saturday night when they play Notre Dame, which we covered earlier. So quick, short and sweet. There's my future best bets win totals.
Short, sweet, and to the point. But
Yes,
there's
sir.
nothing like a futures bet than a 6-leg prize picks entry, brother.
Yes, sir.
Here we are. All right. So Jake and I each chose, oh, goodness. Well, it looks like the graphic cut off the last two, and I apologize for that. However, there are two more embolded on the right side players and their stats. I can barely read the numbers, but we'll get it done. No big deal at all. No big deal at all. However, Jake and I each chose 3 players to represent in this 6-man season-long entry. And first one up, I'll just cover all 3 of mine, and then Jake will cover his. First one up, Jackson Dart. I have him as my SEC Player of the Year. I got Ole Miss winning the SEC. I'm high on the Rebels this year. I think he's got the most weapons and the best weapons he's had since being in Oxford. Give me his over 3,024.5 passing yards prop. Next up, Shedeur Sanders. Recently, Nike athlete signed Shedeur Sanders as of today. Man, I'm not buying it with Shedeur. I think don't get me wrong, I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't think Colorado has the depth on the offensive line. I don't think they have the experience. I don't think they have the mesh. It's a bunch of transfers. New offensive coordinator. Yes, you got Travis Hunter. Yes, you got Jimmy Horn Jr. Yes, you got Will Shepard from Vandy. But I think we saw very early on last year that after a little bit, people got the hang of it. I'm very interested to see how this team starts this year because they are a team that if they start off terrible, Prime could easily resign as head coach, and Shedeur could be game 7. Colorado could be 2-5, and Shedeur could be like, all right, I'm out. I'm going to go get ready for the draft. See y'all later. I could definitely see them doing that. Don't like this number. I think it's too high. I'm not sold on the Buffs. Give me Shedeur Sanders under 3,174.5 passing yards. And my last leg, here we are. Let's see. It's Zach Branch. I got it pulled up on this other monitor. Praise God. As everybody knows, you heard it in my Big Ten preview. You heard it again today, multiple times. I like USC this year. I'm a buyer in Lincoln Riley. And even if their defense sucks, I love this prop. Zach Branch is going to be the next premier receiver on this team. And if it's not him, it's going to be Deuce Robinson. But for a premier receiver to have 649.5 receiving yards as his prop, with that much speed and as much as Miller Moss likes throwing it to him, I love for Zachariah Branch to have more than 650 receiving yards this season.
I love it. Good picks across the board. And a few of those I was on like with you, like Shedeur and his under. I like that one. I like Zachariah Branch, his over. That number is way too low in my opinion. I'll dive into mine. Starting second from the bottom there, Trevion Henderson. Talked about it in the Big Ten preview. I think he's the Big Ten Player of the Year. I think this number is too low. He reached it with ease in the past. Even with the 2-man system, that team's going to lean on the run game with him and Keyshawn Junkins. So give me Trevion Henderson over 724.5 rush yards. And this guy, if you have not learned yet, I suck at pronouncing names. So I'm going to call this guy Kevin C.
I got it.
What you got?
Kevin Concepcion.
All right, there we go. Grayson McCall's number 1 receiver, his number 1 target this year. He was their number 1 guy last year. He was one of the top 2 rushers on that team, believe it or not. I believe he's capable of going 800, 900 yards this season, possibly 1,000, depending on what their scheme is offensively. And then my final pick, and I will be short on this because I'm about to talk about him again. He's my Heisman pick and the SEC Player of the Year, Mr. Jalen Milroe. We saw what Kalen DeBoer has been able to do with quarterbacks in the past and his offensive scheme. I think he's going to have a 3,000 yards season. So that's what we got for the 6-man entry for the season-long futures.
Heck yeah, man. And this will be the last thing you hear Jake and I talk about as far as preseason. This is it. This is what we're talking in. Well, Heisman Trophy talk. There's nothing like talking about the Heisman Trophy when you're doing a preseason preview. Who's going to take home the award for quote-unquote best player in the country, a.k.a. who's the best quarterback on the best team with the most talent. Anyways, besides the point, for the sake of this, we each did a favorite, a middle-of-the-road, not favorite odds, but right there on the edge, and then a long shot. So if I were to bet, I would have Carson Beck, I would have Dylan Gabriel, I would have Jackson Dart, and I would have Miller Moss, hypothetically here. But Jake rolls with Carson Beck. I figured I'd talk about Dylan Gabriel since he is my Big Ten Player of the Year. Beck and Gabriel, Heisman favorites. I'm not going to dive too much into it. Gabriel's got a stellar offensive line, stellar wide receivers to throw to, and a stellar system to play in. I mean, it would not shock me in the slightest if he started the year as the favorite and just took it home in New York in December.
Yeah, I like it a lot. So wait, my bad. Are we? Who am I talking about here?
Beck.
Beck. Okay. We'll do. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, my number one favorite to win it is Carson Beck. I think he's in a perfect position with his line. He's got 4 starters coming back. Georgia's always got the guys behind him for that 5th spot. He's got plenty of talent to throw to, and this team's gonna. I mean, if they're rolling all year, go 11-1, win the SEC championship, he's going to be in one of the 4 guys in New York. So I like Carson Beck. I'll go ahead and move into my second guy, and I like Milroe to win it more than Carson Beck just because I don't think a Georgia player is ever going to win the Heisman. But I'll take Milroe just like I just talked about what DeBoer was able to do with Michael Penix. I'm not saying that he's going to be better or worse. I think he's just going to be way more developed as a passer, and everybody knows what that guy can do with his legs running the football. So, yeah, tell me about Jackson Dart, Hunter.
My second tier Heisman pick that I chose was Jackson Dart. Obviously, no surprise here. We just talked about him in the prize picks. I was harping all on him in the SEC preview. I got on this one in the SEC. I just think Dart and Lane Kiffin's system, he's going to have it dialed up, especially with the loss of Junkins. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think they're going to still have a productive run game, just not as productive because there's nobody better than Quinshon Junkins unless your name's Ollie Gordon. So I think that's even more reason for me to believe that Jackson Dart's going to spread the ball out. He's got a lot of playmakers that can run after the catch and tally up those yards. I could also see Lane Kiffin this weekend against Furman running it up to get those numbers for Jackson Dart. That stuff counts too. So that's why I'm high on Dart, SEC Player of the Year. And I think he has, especially at plus 1,500, those are solid odds for him to win the Heisman Trophy this season. And my dark horse, I already glazed this guy up enough in the Big Ten review. I have not stopped talking about USC the past 2 days. I love Miller Moss as a long shot Heisman Trophy candidate. I've said it. Lincoln Riley's past 3 starters have all won the Heisman. I'm not out here just trying to call my shot, but it would not shock me in the slightest if he made it number 4 because it's his system. If I know anything, they're going to get the yards. He's got the playmakers. Lincoln Riley quarterback at plus 4,000. I'll take that any day of the week. Give me Miller Moss as my long shot to win the Heisman Trophy.
I like it, brother. I like it. My dark horse, and Hunter's going to hate this, is Cameron Rising from Utah. They have one of the easiest schedules in football, and I think they can run it up on just about everybody, just with how healthy this offense is, and if he can stay healthy, everybody on the offense can stay healthy. They brought in some receivers for him to throw to, and he can do it running the football. So, do I think he can reach 3,500 yards in the air? No, but can he reach 3,000 and rush for 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns? 100%. I would not be surprised if it happened. So yeah, that's my dark horse pick.
Well, good deal. And that wraps up all of our futures, all of our week 1 preview, our playoff, no more preview. It's just ball from here on out. But before we head out, we still have a segment left. Add them to the stage here. We've got the editor's note for tonight. Mr. Tyler Vaughn, the stage is yours.
All right, so for tonight's editor's note, I want to highlight some FCS teams that have a really good chance to knock off an FBS school. Famously, App State beating Michigan years and years ago. That was freaking awesome, and I really just want to see that happen again. So I have 2 picks for this week for week 1. My first pick is North Dakota State versus Colorado. Hunter said it really well in the previews. Colorado is going to suck, and North Dakota State is a freaking powerhouse in the FCS. Cam Miller, he's going to be the NDSU starting quarterback. He's made 38 consecutive starts for the Bison. He's very experienced, and he's no stranger to big games. He's played in many of them when it comes to them playing in the playoffs and the FCS playoffs. North Dakota State's coming off a 10-4 season, and they're looking to make a big statement game here to get back to the top of the FCS world. So be on the lookout for them to take down Colorado. My second pick is going to be Richmond versus Virginia. Richmond is a team that is historically known to be really good in the FCS. But this pick is more about Virginia's struggles rather than Richmond's success. Virginia is 3-12 in their last 15 games, which you don't have to be a genius to know that that's really bad. I'm not very high on Virginia. I think they're going to continue to struggle. And Richmond ran a 2-quarterback system last year, so they don't really have that guy at quarterback, but they average 28 points a game, and I'd say that's fairly decent. And they're bringing back both of those quarterbacks. Virginia is favored by 18.5 points. I'm personally not buying that. I don't think that that's going to hold up. So keep an eye on Richmond this week. And a new segment to the editor's note, we'll start doing this every week, is going to be called the Peach State Pride segment. I'm going to highlight 2 high school football games in the state of Georgia from this week that have some star power. So the first one's going to be Benedictine versus Burke County. Both are ranked number 4 in the state. And Benedictine fell to the infamous Buford last week in a 1-point heartbreaking loss. They're 0-2 to start the year, but they're looking to bounce back. They have a lot of talent on that roster. And Burke County also is they're 2-0, however, and they got a lot of studs on that team. They're looking to come in and make a statement. So the second game is going to be Carrollton versus Rome. Carrollton, nationally ranked team. They've got the 5-star quarterback Juju Lewis committed to USC. He's going to be under center for them, and everybody knows that he's a stud. He's taken Carrollton deep into the playoffs past 2 years, and in his junior year, he's looking to do the same thing. But his biggest challenge in this game is going to be going against Jaden Harmon of Rome. He's a 4-star linebacker, safety kind of guy, and he's committed to Tennessee. So watch for that game. That game's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. A lot of people have Carrollton going winning that pretty convincingly. I don't know about that one. So we'll see. And yeah, that's the editor's note for this week.
Thank you, Tyler. That was good. Tyler does a great job with all of our producing, and obviously the editor's note is going to play a huge part in the pod this year. So yeah, that's all we got for you today. The next time we talk to you guys, we will be done with week 1 of college football. We're finally here. We hope everybody has a good weekend, tailgating at the bar, at the games, wherever you're traveling or you're going to be at watching the games this weekend. I know me and my buddies are making a big Costco run on Friday to get some burgers, have a big tailgate for a long weekend of football. So yeah, with that, go like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Like I always say, listen to us on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Give us a shout on Instagram or Twitter at podcast 129. And that's all we got. Podcast 129, episode 5.